Jai Sri Radhe. So this is going to be part 2, verse 2 of Manah Shiksha. I gave the talk yesterday on the first verse, and it was a bit, it was disturbed in the middle, and so I feel a little unsatisfied with that first verse explanation, especially since I seemed to get distracted and lost my train of thought. But anyway, today, let's just review the first verse. Guru Goshte. Why don't I just chant a few of the verses? Let's do the first 4. We'll do the first 3, like I was explaining yesterday, that there were, the Manah Shiksha is divided into 3 sections, if you don't include the full Shruti. And the first 3 verses are so let's just chant the first 3 verses and look at them as a whole, and so on, just to get our mind into it properly. There's nothing like chanting and meditation. If you have to speak Harikatha, Swami Veda told me, he says he never really prepared a talk, that he always meditated beforehand. And later on, when he was getting older and his body was becoming quite frail, I saw him just a few weeks before he died. He was interviewed by Doordarshan, the Indian television network, the national television network. And I watched him on that video. He gave a half-an-hour interview. And in the beginning, he seemed to be so far away, and so I was afraid that he was so deep in his meditation that he would not be able to give a coherent response. But then as the time went by, he became enlivened and energized, and made some of his points with great emphasis. And he told me afterwards that he'd done 3 hours of meditation before giving that interview, just so that he would have the strength to do it. But he told me on another occasion that since his childhood, that he had been giving lectures and he was never preparing them. And his father, when he was a prodigy, just like Mozart with his father, so his father was really on his case all the time to prepare his lectures. And he never prepared them, but went out there and spoke to crowds of people impromptu, and became a sensation, because even at that age, he could summon up knowledge of the Vedas and the philosophical texts. So I'm a person who has always had the tendency to over-prepare. And over-preparation is very bad. You need to spend some time digesting material, not preparing, not going and looking. Like when you write a doctoral dissertation, then you're trying to encompass the entire field of knowledge, which is, generally speaking, impossibility. And people often who write their theses, they think that they've got it all. If you have a field of knowledge that's sufficiently circumscribed, then maybe you can. But just collecting and marshalling information doesn't necessarily mean that you've understood it. And that, in this case of bhakti, is something that is progressive and layered. You go from the gross to the subtle, as we were explaining yesterday. So if there was anything that I wanted to take away, this Manah Shiksha is Raghunath Das Goswami's introduction to Raganuga sadhana. It's an introductory stotra. It's not, he's telling his mind, he's educating his mind, and by extension, the mind means all the people in the world whose minds are distracted. In the yoga system, you have 5 bhumis. General bhumis, general levels. And we have those in all. We have the, in bhakti, we have our own system of levels. But here, this, as one becomes more subtle, excuse me again, keeping my asana is difficult in this. I repeat. So the Raghunath Das is giving an introduction to Raganuga sadhana. And it's Manah Pradhana. This is what I was saying yesterday. That it's Manah Pradhana. That Raganuga sadhana, is the focus of it is a sadhana that governs the mind. So now here we are entering into yoga territory. That was what I was explaining about the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita when we say Arurukshor Muner Yogam Karma Karana Muchyate. So karma means that you're using the external senses, like explained in the 3rd chapter of the Gita, and gradually developing enough sense control to be able to enter into control of the mind. And the control of the mind in yoga and in bhakti-yoga is similar in the sense that you are endeavoring to direct your mind to what is called an alambana. Now the alambana in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, well, that you have to seek out. But predominantly, it's Radha Krishna Pranamor Jugala Kishore. Radha Krishna Pranamor. Radha Krishna Pranamor Jugala Kishore. Jivane morane gati ar nahi mo. Jivane morane gati ar nahi mo. Yugal Kishore, Radha and Krishna, the divine couple, that's our Ishta. Jivane morane gati ar nahi mo. In birth, in life, in death, I don't know any other destination other than Radha and Krishna. So that's our alambana. And the alambana is that by various means, Shravanam, Kirtanam, that's the beginning. You hear and you chant. And then you remember. And it's a bit different from the Jnana Yoga path, which has Sravana at the beginning also. And then Manana and Nididhyasana. But the different names, and the reason there are different names is because they're different paths. But basically, functionally speaking, the 3 categories of action or the 3 categories are the same. Shravanam is an activity belonging to the external senses. Now to Shravanam, well, we've been talking about 4 kinds of sound vibration or 4 kinds of word, 4 kinds of vak. It's a very widely known aspect of Indian thought, that vak, sound, word, the word, logos, has 4 levels of meaning. So Vaikhari, this sound vibration, or this, what was originally para, existing in a transcendent state, in an archetypal form. The word exists in an archetypal form. If I say tree, you haven't seen the specific tree that I might be talking about, but tree you understand, because there is an archetypal concept, para. And that archetype, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we place that archetype. The archetypal tree exists in Goloka, it exists in Gokula, it exists in Vrindavan. But para, then you have Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhari. So Pashyanti means to have the direct perception of that thing. So you have a word refers to an object. That object is transcendent. but you observe the singular phenomenon, and so it has taken on another form in the perception of something that contains or something that possesses that name. And then Madhyama is the process of mental transmission, the mental process that takes place between the perception and the expression. So Vaikari is the expression. So now here what you're hearing is Vaikari sound. Now to the extent that Madhyama, Pashyanti, and Para are aligned, the Vaikari takes on a particular power. It takes on the power of the sound vibration. So Shravanam, when you, the listener, are hearing the sound, the power of the sound, the effect of the sound, well, it depends partly on you and partly on the speaker. So the speaker, to the extent that he has perceived the 4 levels, or has perceived the 3 primary levels and then is expressing the word, that is the extent to which the speech will be powerful. And then, of course, there is the ability of the srota, the hearer, to process or to follow that same path back up. So you hear the Vaikari. From the Vaikari, you go through the Mananam process of the Madhyama stage. Then you go from the Madhyama stage to the Pashyanti. And then from Pashyanti to Para. That is how you follow the sequence of Vak. So the process for the speaker and the process for the Srota are reversed. So how does the Srota process? That's called sadhana. So Shravanam is the first activity. That's already a sadhana. If you're hearing from a pure devotee, then the sound vibration is effective. And the sound vibration itself is coming from the Shuddha Sattva. And the Shuddha Sattva, being pure spiritual energy, Chit Shakti, has an effect on the hearer. An effect that is similar to the effect of material sound, the way that the material sound is working, as I just described it, but with that added understanding, or that added insight, or that added understanding of the Vaishnavas, that the archetype exists in Krishna, in the divine realm, which we visualize as Krishna. Now, archetypal universes, there can be many of them. They are all the divine universe. The divine archetypal universe is multiple. It's not one. You as an individual choose your archetypal universe. Partly it's chosen for you, because when you're born into a culture, you're born into a family culture, you're born into a national culture, you're born into a world culture, state of the world. A person born in America in 2015 is not going to be the same as a person born in Australia desert in 2015 BC, if there were anybody there at that time. So, in the bhakti process, it's Sravanam, Kirtanam, then Smaranam. We call it Smaranam. But Smaranam means that you're attempting to directly go to Para. But even to go directly to Para, you have to follow the process. But you're aiming for the transcendent vision. But if you look at the way that the jnana path, because here everybody's got jnana mixed. Try to understand this. We follow bhakti and we say we want not jnana misra bhakti. We don't want yoga misra bhakti. We don't want karma misra bhakti. We want shuddha bhakti. But the human being is made up of different proclivities. Karma, the ergonomic, the active part of being, this external sensual part. Karma. And then jnana refers to the intellectual, the internal part. So, and bhakti belongs to the affective part. Bhakti is about love, about feeling, about emotion. So all the emotions really can be dovetailed into bhakti, because bhakti is the realm of emotion. So emotion, generally speaking, is suspicious, and so we were talking yesterday about the mind, and the mind observing and criticizing and predicting and so on, in order to forestall dangers or mistakes. I take to a spiritual path, I take a guru, or I fall in love with a girl. My mind is immediately going to tell me, watch out here, buddy, this girl, she's got buck teeth. You really want that? You want to spend your life? You want to, that's what you want? This is the kind of thing the mind will say. Your guru. In the beginning, you might fall in love with the guru. And you think, wow, this guy, a Maharishi. And then all of a sudden, you hear a story. Maharishi's been diddling the girls, right? And so your mind falls into a state of confusion. So let's just stick to because a person may see para and still be in contact with material nature. But what do we know really of the activities of the highly advanced souls? Nevertheless, we're operating from a mundane state of mind, and so in that dual state, we criticize and we doubt. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so the jnana path is precisely about that. Mananam means, okay, you have a doubt. Let's face it. Let's understand it. Let's argue it out. So generally speaking, the jnana path is one of neti, right? Of constant deconstruction. Even today we have deconstructionism as a philosophy, right? And the deconstruction as a philosophy is basically the same thing. You keep peeling away layers, peeling away layers, peeling away layers, peeling away layers. Finding hidden layers of motivation. You can always find some hidden layer of motivation. Why is Jagadananda doing this? Why is Jagadananda speaking? He must have pratishtha. He must want to be glorified, right? He must want to make money. So naturally the doubting mind is there. So face the problem, right? You face the problem. That's called manana. You hear in the Shastra contradictory things. Nirguna saguna, nirvishesh savishesh. Here in one place it's telling you to do one thing, another place it's telling you to do something else. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna puts down karma mimamsa philosophy. He says, you don't understand what this karma mimamsa is, you fools. Traigunya vishaya veda, nistraigunya bhavarjuna. So mananam is about deconstruction. So this is why, personally, you see, I don't have a problem so much with atheists. Of course, I think that most atheists are just following the herd, the current herd. It's become, in America especially, you have, or in most places, it's become quite fashionable, let's say, to be it's probably been fashionable for a couple of 100 years now, but it's becoming more fashionable, generally speaking, to be an atheist. And a liberal atheist will say, well, if somebody personally wants to do religion, what do I care? That's their business. But as for me, or they'll say something like the Pope Francis, I got nothing to do with religion. Catholics, I can't stand them or whatever, but the Pope seems like a pretty good guy. He's saying all the right things. So, but I don't feel so negative about atheism, but atheism is a process of doubting and deconstruction, and keep on finding deeper and deeper hidden, subtle motivations, hidden motivations, and there's no end to them. And so finally you just say, you give up, and you say there's nothing, or there should be nothing, that everything is ego, everything is vanity, as it says in the Bible. And so you go to nididhyasana, you come to that truth, and you absorb yourself in the conclusion of your manana. Now in bhakti, we also have to do some deconstruction. There are grosser and subtle levels of understanding in bhakti. In the Bible it says when you were a child, you played like a child. But now that you're an adult, you put away the things of a child. So it's the same thing with bhakti. There are external aspects of bhakti, and then there are internals. There are gross and there are subtle. In bhakti we talk about bheda, achintya bheda, bhed. So the bheda part, that we tell you, the bheda part is very important, and mostly what we talk about in bhakti is going to emphasize the bheda. But underneath the bheda is the abheda, the achintya shakti of abheda. And it's easy to understand the bheda. It's not so easy to understand the abheda, because abheda, it really requires the sadhana. It's very strange when I tell you this. You'll think, what is he talking about? You go from the bheda to the abheda. What is the goal? The goal is to become one with Krishna, to become one with Radha and Krishna. What does it mean to become one with Radha and Krishna? Well, when we say one with Radha and Krishna, we don't exactly mean the same thing as the Advaitavadis or the yogis. But being one with God in love is still Advaita, and it still requires to assimilate the Advaita understanding. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. I have to keep track of the time, because yesterday what happened was that when at 9 o'clock, you see, I don't have much time now. I started too late. So I'm going to stop this one, and I'm going to, unlike yesterday where I stopped suddenly, I'm going to make this also 2 parts, because I didn't even get to the second verse. I'm still trying to recapitulate what I was saying in the first verse. So this will be, let's say, Manah Shiksha part 3 and of the first verse. And I think I'll go on with that afterwards as well, and maybe we'll get to the second verse. So I'm going to stop here for a second. I was saying Babaji, Satyanarayan Das Ji, he left yesterday. And so it was the last day that he did his kirtan upstairs. So now I decided that I will continue to do that kirtan while he's away. He's going to be away for 6 weeks at least, so that's a long time. But I found it very enlivening to have a program of bhakti. It's been a long time. It really has been a long time that I've had that kind of regular sangha where we do kirtan together and where we do path together. I do it with another Vaishnava. And I'm so pleased, really, that after so many years of knowing Satyanarayan Das Ji, I'm starting to find a deeper friendship with him in sharing Harikatha and Harikirtan. It's very rare, really, in circles to have a non-ego relationship. A person like myself, I'll be quite honest. You're a scholar, you're a devotee, you go to a path and you immediately measure. You're measuring what is the level of understanding of the speaker. What is the level of knowledge of the speaker? What is the bhava of the speaker? And I've been talking about the mind, so this is a mind activity, right? The mind activity, the most important mind activity really is protecting the ego. To have a strong ego. That's what the mind is for. The material mind. And the spiritual mind is also for a strong ego, but the strong ego of the Vaishnava is dasosmi. Tasmin pritim kurve. I love. My ego is I love. It's not that I think, therefore I am. It's I love, therefore I am. Okay. Sorry to natter on like this, but as I started this class, no.